Oh, gee. Oh. Hi, everyone. 'Tis I, Deadpool here. And, well... The reason why I was holding my head is because, well, it turns out that, multi-voice reviewer here was watching the series of The Tick, doing a lot of research about The Tick. So, he got himself into it more than I did. And if you want to know why I have a migraine over this, well, let's just say I saw a top 10 list, and he will explain that later. But he got himself into it, he started to sound more like The Tick. So, okay, reviewer, do your thing. My dear citizens of this review, every time when danger is lurking, I am here because my review is mighty and warn those evil do-gooders. Anyway, and warn those evil do-gooders, beware my battle cry. Spooooooon! Yeah, you did your Tick part. Even though you kind of butchered it a little. But anyway, just get on with the review, shall we? Why Deadpool? What seems to be the problem? It's because that top 10 list that you have seen. Oh yeah. Deadpool was bummed out because he was watching this top 10 list of the funniest villains and superheroes. And, spoiler alert, which one made number 1 on the top 10 list? Well, it turns out The Tick became number 1 on the top 10 list of the funniest superheroes and villains. Yeah. And I end up to be number 2. Man, I hate being number 2 because I feel like number 2. Anyway, get on with the review. Will you just relax? Anyway, this is my review for the day, folks. I'm gonna review The Tick. Now, not many people know that The Tick was actually based from a comic book back in 1988. I'm not kidding. His comic book was made back in 1988. That's where The Tick first started. Created by a comic book artist and writer who goes by the name of Ben Edlund. That's his name. Now, the origin of The Tick is actually unknown. He has no clue who he is. Heck, from his origin, started in an insane asylum. Whoa, wait a minute. So The Tick started in the insane asylum? Is he cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs like yours truly? Yes and no, actually. He was in the insane asylum, but he wasn't crazy. It turns out that the Tick's real person, the real guy behind the Tick, I mean our main character here, the Tick, he has no clue who he is, because he has been hit way too many times in the head, and now he has a bad case of amnesia. He doesn't even know who he is. And then after that, he ended up in the insane asylum because of his amnesia. He doesn't know who he is. And after being in that asylum in a padded room in a straitjacket, he starts to discover that everything is getting pretty boring. So, he decided to escape the asylum and become a crime fighter. Become a superhero. Now, unlike other superheroes we know, this character, the Tick, he was actually optimistic and good nature, but he's mostly used bronze instead of brains, because he always gets hit all the time with his head, and sometimes he goes into a trance sometimes after it's too many hits. But his superpower is that he is indestructible. Nothing cannot even kill him, not even bullets. And he is super strong. He can jump really, really fast. He cannot fly, though. And of course, one of his powers is that he's dramatic. Every time when he makes these superhero speeches, he gets really, really dramatic, and it might be the source of his powers. Let's say that, being dramatic is not a superpower. It's just being a it's just kind of gloating about yourself, like yours truly. I mean, heck, I'm dramatic about myself, and I never got superpowers from that. Well, yours is different, actually. Now, in the comic book, he also went on his own persona. Like in one of the issues that he's supposed to get a job. So he goes by the name of Neville Ned, who works as a journalist in a newspaper columnist on crosswords. So pretty much he works on crosswords. But the only disguise he has is a bow tie. He wears this bow tie with plant designs on him, and that's it. And he thought he can see crime by using this binder that they use in the comics. And throughout the comic book, he knew that he needed a sidekick. So therefore, he meets a former accountant who quits and thinks he can have a better life as a superhero known as Arthur. And his boss kind of complained about his moth suit, even though they kept calling him the White Bunny. But it's a moth because of the wings he has in his briefcase. So he quit his job as an accountant and tried to start his life as a superhero until he met the Tick. And of course, unlike other superheroes that we know, the Tick and Arthur, they have an interesting friendship. At first, the Tick thought that Arthur's apartment has a secret layer, like a secret compartment, has a secret switch that turns into, but it turns out it's just an apartment. A plain, ordinary apartment. And of course, unlike other superheroes, Arthur does all the work. He pays cab fares, but they also do other things that you never seen in any other superhero stuff. Like, they do the dishes, they do laundry, they go grocery shopping. They do everything that pretty much us normal, average Joes do. Oh yeah? Huh. That's something I can't do. I either have my, blind roommate Al do the shopping. And of course, I also do have a little bit of help from other superheroes. But I just go solo and do what I want. And besides, with my healing factor, I hardly get hungry. But I always crave for some chimichangas, pancakes, pizza, and maybe some beer, even though I don't get drunk. Yeah, but compared to you, superheroes gotta make a living. Now, ever since the comic book got really, really popular, and not many people know that the Tick was actually a spin-off. A spin-off to another comic, which wasn't that popular. So anyway, when this comic book got so popular, Bid Edlin decided to make a cartoon series, and he made a deal with Fox. And then in 1994, the Tick cartoon series was born. And it started back in 1994, and it only lasted for like 3 seasons. in 1996. Gosh, I remember 1996, where things were getting a lot cooler at that time. Anyway, but of course the show has a lot of parodies in it. Like, there's this character called the Cape Wanderer. He's supposed to be a parody of Superman. Like, every time when there is a trouble going on, and you can see a cape dangling under his jacket, and every time he's trying to get into a bathroom, you hear a voice saying, "Occupied!" And when he's trying to get into a phone booth, the person in the phone booth keeps shutting the door in front of his face, like he has a hard time trying to change into his costume. And of course there were other lame superheroes that are kind of like parodied. Like, check this one. This guy over here, who kind of looks like Batman, he goes by the name of the Fledermaus. Now, unlike Batman, the Fledermaus, he is cocky, he is arrogant, and he's a coward. Unlike Batman, who is more dynamic and smart and calculating, he's just arrogant, and why he wants to be a superhero, I'll never know. But one superhero who's pretty cool in this show is, of course, the American Maid. Now, American Maid, she's like a combined mixture of Wonder Woman and Captain America, where she fight for America with those high heels, and she uses high heels as a weapon. And the most popular character of all is, of course, the Sewer Urgent, which he is a parody to Aquaman, because when he's in the surface, he's not that interesting, he's not that cool, but in the sewer, he's awesome. Just like Aquaman. When Aquaman is in the surface world, he ain't that cool, he's not that cool, but when he's underwater, he's awesome. So Sewer Urgent was a parody to Aquaman. And of course there are tons of other characters, like, there's Bullethead, who always gets inside of a cannonball and always tells his son, "Fire me, boy!" And he goes out, but he always keeps ending up going in the wrong direction. And of course there is this guy, Bipolar Bear, who is bipolar, doesn't feel like fighting crime. And then there is the iguana guy, or the chameleon. He keeps changing his colors to blend in his surroundings, but when he gets into plaid, that's his weakness, because he can't make up his colors. And of course, the Tick always looks down on the anti-heroes. Like, here's a character who's a parody to the Punisher, who goes by the name of Hotshot, or Deadshot, where he uses guns as his powers. But it turns out he just had issues. So the Ticks say, "Get some help." And did you know that Mickey Dolenz, one of the members of the Monkees, did the voice of Arthur in the first season? But due to him, he needs to go somewhere. He's busy somewhere else. He has to leave the show, and somebody else took his place. And the guy who does the voice of the Tick is the same voice actor who did the voice of my favorite turtle from the Ninja Turtles, Michelangelo, dude. And he always sounds more like this. "Evildoers, beware my battle cry. Spoon!" "And what's your battle cry, Arthur?" "Oh, I don't know, maybe, 'Not in the face, not in the face!'" "Not much of a battle cry there, Arthur." And of course, Arthur has a sister named Dot who doesn't approve of Arthur being a sidekick to a superhero. But they made a lot of, they made a lot of parodies of other superheroes, and some of them that are a huge joke. And he meets a lot of villains too. Like and even some of the villains kind of look like bad guys out of Dick Tracy. What? What is it, Deadpool? You said Alright, shut up. Shut up, Deadpool. Just shut up. Okay? It's not that funny. Ugh, I hate people who act like Beavis and Butthead. You know, I should review Beavis and Butthead one of these days. Anyway, he also, I mean, he meets a lot of villains that are a lot like Dick Tracy. Don't start! And for those of you who don't know who Dick Tracy is, he's a cop detective who has criminals who look exactly like their names. And one of the most memorable villains of all is Chair-Face Chippendale. And he wears a snazzy suit, but he has a chair for a head. That's just weird, straight out weird. And of course there were other villains too. Like there is the Terror, who's supposed to be a former Nazi criminal who trying to raise havoc in the world. And he also makes friends with other villains. Like there is the Joseph Stalin look-alike, and this alien from another world. And there is this One Ton. He's this big fat guy who has this sock puppet as a friend. It's weird. And of course, one thing I like, but the only villain I like the most on the Tick is the Midnight Bomber who bombs at midnight. Where the Tick, Arthur, and the other guys had to go to this superhero convention where all the other superheroes meet together. And of course, the Tick is battling against this guy named Barry, who turns out he calls himself the Tick. And now he's getting upset because there's another superhero named the Tick. And the Midnight Bomber, he makes me laugh the way he talks. He was like, and I say, are you crazy? Crazy? Yeah, that's right, baby. Hot time tonight. It's just weird. I mean, he's really psychotic nuts. And of course, there is a misunderstood character. Like, there is Dinosaur Dan. He was actually an archaeologist who picks up dinosaur fossils and such, until he found himself a dinosaur DNA, and he had it, he put it on a little petri dish full of, I forgot the name, but it's like liquid acid. I mean, not acid, liquid aspirin. Yeah, they did an episode where they found another name for aspirin. Anyway, he accidentally ate the dinosaur DNA, and he turned himself into a big, giant, dinosaur-like character, creating a rampage, and Arthur and the Tick found a way to stop him by creating the biggest aspirin in the world and making him swallow it so he can go back to his normal size. And of course, Arthur's sister Dot, and not Dot from Animaniacs, but Arthur's sister Dot fell in love with Dinosaur Dan. And there's also a character who's a parody of Galactus, where Arthur accidentally went all the way up to outer space, and he meets this giant guy who eats planets. And I mean, he literally eats planets. He gets a planet and go... That's what he does. But a Tick convinced him not to eat Earth, but to eat the moon instead. Now... Oh yeah, and also there's the Mad Baker. He's a bakery chef who creates breads. But one thing about his bakery, he makes them grow really, really big. He's the Mad Baker, and he makes biscuits that can grow really, really big and breaks everything. And of course, the Tick has to destroy this giant souffle. It was going massive. And also, one thing that was really neat Also, there was the time where the Tick traveled through time, and he meet a lot of history makers, like Leonardo da Vinci, Ben Franklin, and all those other historical people, and they made him become futuristic superheroes. Which I gotta say, that's pretty cool. Anyway, and also, there was this one episode where Arthur met this Mexican girl who also wears the same costume like he does. And she likes him just the way he is. The Tick got a little jealous about it because he thinks his relationship with her would break up the friendship that the Tick and Arthur has. But he discovers that the relationship ain't gonna break up the friendship. They'll stay friends no matter what. And of course, during his travels in Mexico, he thought he found himself a dog that he calls Speak, who only speak to him. I mean, the dog kind of speaks to him in his sleep, but he preferred to name it Speak, until when he took it to the vet, the doctor told him that it's not a dog. It's a capybara. Whoa, 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 whoa. Now, what in the butt is a capybara? Well, a capybara is actually a giant rodent. It's about the size of a dog, and they're pretty much related to the rabbits. So that's why they're giant rodents. And they're mostly outdoor animals. And for those of you who don't know about capybara, look them up. They're really cute. I saw them myself. They're very adorable. Anyway, after the animated series was over, back in 2001, they decided to make this. A live-action version of The Tick. Now, starring the great Patrick Warburton playing The Tick, I always find it kind of funny that every time when a bad guy keeps hitting him with a wrench or a giant robot keeps headbutting him, he says, "Oh, knock it off!" But they did change the characters too, because in the show, the Fledermaus has changed into Batmanuel, and American Maid has changed into Captain Liberty. And sadly, this live-action series only lasted for like one season, so it started in 2001 and ended in 2002. So it was short-lived. But it was still entertaining nonetheless. For those of you who are Tick fans, you should find this series and look it up. I wish I had it on DVD. But all is not lost, folks, because in 2007, they decided to make this. And this one is only on Amazon Prime. The brand new live Tick series. Started back in 2007, and it's still going on even today. They're working on the second season. They got done with the first one. Now, believe it or not, Patrick Warburton became the producer of this show. And the original guy who does the voice of the Tick from the animated series, he does the voice of that talking dog in this show. And not the one that it was a capybara. There was a German Shepherd who can talk. But the biggest difference between the animated series and the live series and this one was not meant for kids. This one has a lot of cuss words and violence involved. And this time, the Tick is played by a British actor who goes by the name of Peter Bonjevovitz. And if you haven't seen him in anything else, he was in Shaun of the Dead as Pete, the naked zombie. And also was in Guardian of the Galaxy as one of the Nova until he got killed when he was calling for Rocket for help, and calling Rocket Raccoon a hamster. And also called the Guardians, what a bunch of a-holes. But you should look him up on his TV series he made called the Peter Bonjevovitz Show. His sense of humor is kind of nutty and funny. And he does really good impressions of celebrities. I mean, he's absolutely hilarious. But with his performance of the Tick, he was the heart of the series. because he was a sympathizing superhero who knows what it takes to be a superhero, who doesn't like superheroes who kills. And one thing that's really different in this one, Arthur here, he has more of a backstory. When he was a little kid, he idolizes the group of superheroes. But when he was a little kid, the evil bad guy goes by the name of Terror. He destroyed the superheroes and murdered his father, so that traumatized Arthur ever since he grew up. So, instead of dreaming of being a superhero, he decided to prove to everybody that the Terror is still alive. You know, the former Nazi who's still alive even today. And of course, it turns out there's a traitor in the midst. Until when he finally found himself an Arthur costume, I mean the moth costume, the Tick found him and decided to become best friends to him and help him overcome his trauma. And of course, his sister Dot, she became a police officer and encouraged Arthur to be a sidekick to the superhero. And of course, I always love this line. When Arthur goes through this life and death situation, the Tick look at him and says, "Look at you. You battle against a bunch of bad guys and you're as alive as a daisy." And of course, they did stump that one theory. A lot of people thought that the Tick was Arthur's imagination, that he was his he was a part of his personality who became his invisible friend. Because when they did the live episode here, Dot asked him, "Who is he?" And Arthur said, "You can see him?" And she said, "Yeah." But bear in mind, this series is not meant for kids. It's meant for grown-ups. Because there's a lot of cussing, profound language, and a lot of violence. But the Tick is still the same person. And Arthur, he's just scared and traumatized. But the Tick helped him get over his trauma to become what he always wanted to be, a superhero. Now, I haven't seen this show because I don't have Amazon Prime yet. Heck, I don't have Netflix either. I mean, I don't have any account because they cost a lot. And we don't have a internet account for us to get ourselves into Netflix or Amazon Prime. But for you fans, you can check this series out and tell me what you think. Actually, leave it down in the comment section below. Well, that is my review for the day. And for those of you who likes this review, please leave a comment down below, hit like and subscribe, and also hit the little bell next to the subscriber to let you guys know what new videos I've made lately. Because that's one thing I forgot to mention. Every subscriber has a little bell on it so it would ding to let you know what new videos I made. So, what do you think, Deadpool? Good job, but you're not out of the woods yet. There's one more crazy superhero for you to review, and I'll be out of your hair. Oh yeah, and what's that? Oh, come on, you know. The stretchy superhero, the funny one that people say that your personality is a lot like him. Oh no, not him, please. Anything but him. Yes! Plastic Man! Oh, God. I dread about this. But if I must, I must. So stay tuned, folks. Get ready to watch me do the review of Plastic Man, and I'll tell you why I didn't care much about Plastic Man. I mean, he was funny, but there's something about him I did not like. So, to be continued. For the love of God, please.